Hi, everybody.
Can I see the rest of the people who are online?
Well, what we're doing is recording it because somebody wanted to attend and, something else came up and, plus for the half dozen people that are down in Tryon today, so. So anyhow, going back to what we were just discussing, find out what, is it a specific area? Or if it includes this area up here, that could be an issue. You don't want to step on anybody's toes.
So would I ask for the other agent and see, or do I just get that information from the buyer?
Well, just ask the buyer, what does the agreement say? What geographic area does it state? And is it a Keller Williams agent? Is it a Keller Williams agent?
I didn't ask all those kind of questions.
Yeah, if you talk to the other agent, ask for a copy of the agreement, because they may not,
Be honest.
okay. I was trying to say, I'm trying to find a nicer way to say
Yeah,
it.
well, to me, I would just, the buyer should have a copy of the agreement and just ask for the buyer for a copy of the agreement. And whatever it says, if it says, they want to buy here in Rutherford County, and the agreement says Rutherford County, you just say, I'm sorry, but, your current agreement covers that area. And,
It would be the base route.
and now if you want me to work with you, maybe what I can do is talk to the other agent. We can do it on a referral basis. All right. But what you want to do is be nice to the other agent. And you always want to, well, because you never know when you're going to run into them again. And when you're not nice, other agents, they have a thing that's like a blacklist. We have it. For those agents that are really hard to work with, that you hope you never have to work with them again.
So that blacklist, is it personal blacklist or is it for the?
It's a personal blacklist. It's just, if you're, we're all in this business together, so we all want to work together and be nice to one another. And if you have an agent on the other side of the transaction who is being a jerk, you just make that note that, be careful, because what happens is, now I have to show this property, it's listed by him. You're prepared for whatever's gonna come. It's not that you're not gonna work with them again. It's just that if you can avoid working with that other agent, you will.
Or if you're doing a search and you come up with a list of 23 properties and you only want to show 10, if that agent has one of them, that might not make the list of 10.
It depends on what the criteria is for your buyer.
Right.
Your fiduciary responsibility is to your buyer. So, you need to show them the property regardless of who the other agent is, regardless of what the commission is on the other side.
Right.
You need to do what's right for your client.
Did they fall into web flooding? The agent?
It could
Yeah, that happens. Maybe, yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna talk about value for sellers. And the law of value says that the value you give determines the value you get. So we need to establish trust. We need to provide fiduciary representation. Didn't I just hear that word somewhere? And deliver core services with a positive, memorable client experience. Surprise and delight. So, we always talk about providing good service to our clients. But what you want to do is provide a good experience. And there's actually, MAPS has a class out there about customer experience. Because when you think about things that are important to you or things that you've done, what are the things that give you a good memory? I can give you copies of all these slides.
Okay, good
So you don't have
results,
to write all this stuff down.
good results for one thing.
Well, good results, but what is that?
Experience.
Exactly, it's the experience.
Yeah.
It's like Becky and I, we hiked the Appalachian Trail. It was the experience that we had interacting with the other people on the trail. It was the experience that, you know, that you remember, not so much the hiking for 20 miles a day or whatever we were doing. So you need to establish trust, provide your core services, a great experience, surprise and delight, and provide that fiduciary representation. So what's fiduciary representation?
Everything you do has to be in the best interest of your client. Even if it's at your expense.
Yep. How do we establish trust?
Talking about myself.
When you're working with one of your clients, how do we establish trust with that
Tell the
client?
truth.
So you just met this client, so the idea here is where this would be a listening presentation. Last week we were talking about buyers, so it would be a buyer consultation. So during that period, how do you establish trust with that person?
You show them that you're knowledgeable. Both in the process and the market. You make sure that everything you tell them is factual. You don't downgrade or badmouth other agents or agencies.
Correct, yeah, you never do that.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first things I learned years ago in sales, that you never badmouth the competition.
Yeah.
I haven't heard exactly, I mean, everything you said is right.
Asking them questions about them, like genuinely, you know, caring about what's important to them.
Exactly. When you ask questions about them and you make it about them, they're saying, well, gee, they care about me. Maybe I can trust this guy. And it also goes along with the knowing what you're doing, you know. That you can be a caring person and be an idiot realtor too at the same time and not understand the market. So you need to have all of that together. But the big thing is that you want to ask those questions. So this is the circle of trust. You know, you're by asking questions, you're understanding and caring. That's what you're demonstrating. And going back to what you were talking about, the competency, knowing what's going on in the market. So that's, you're demonstrating that you're competent at what you do, you understand the market. You're being honest and open with them in your communications. And then you make a promise, you keep the promise. And you need to do it sort of like Disney does, under promise and over deliver. I was on ALC in Florida and we went to the behind the scenes at Disney World. And they show you all the different little things that they do. It's like they determine just how far the garbage cans need to be from one another so that people throw their garbage in the can and not on the ground. And, you know, they're supposed to open at 9 o'clock in the morning. And they wind up, you know, everybody's waiting there and it's a few minutes before 9 and they let everybody in ahead of time. It's all of those, that experience that you provide, you just need to be a little bit better. And we had been with some friends, a good friend of mine, his son works for, what's the other park there? SeaWorld, works for the SeaWorld people. And, so we had gone to a park with them one weekend. They had invited us and their son got passes and everything. We went Then the following week, we went with my daughter and her family, they're season ticket holders at Disney, so we went to Disney. And while it was a great experience at SeaWorld and all, when we went to Disney, it was just a little bit there. And that's what you want to do. That's how you set yourself apart from the competition, and that's how what you want to demonstrate to your clients when you're, and demonstrating your value. So how do you lose trust? Just, don't show any empathy, demonstrate that you're not competent. Just any of the reverse of what we were just talking about. So these are the 8 moments that trust is built with the seller. First contact, presenting value, educating around key milestones, executing marketing plan, communication and feedback, negotiating contracts, due diligence period, and closing the transaction. So first contact, that's important. You need to be on time. I've taken a class with Gary Waldine, and he went on a listing appointment one time. And it's like, knocking on the door, the guy answers, he says, "Nice to meet you." I says, "Gary, it's nice to meet you, but I'm not gonna be able to work with you." And Gary said, "Why?" He says, "Because you're late." The ex-military, he was late, he didn't even let him in for the consultation. So it's always good to get there early. And it's, it's always stuck with me, so get there 10 minutes early, drive around the neighborhood, see if maybe it's for sale that you didn't see when you were doing your research. Just so that you have a little understanding. And so what's the problem? I don't think anybody's gonna complain if you're a couple minutes early. But if you're making somebody wait, that can make a difference.
I've actually apologized for, I'm a few minutes early, I'm sorry. And the guy said, "Hey, early is on time."
Yeah.
You're okay. So,
And if for some reason, you have a appointment and you get stuck in traffic on 26, pick up the phone and say, "I apologize, I'm stuck. There's a traffic jam here on 26. Right now, my GPS is saying I'm gonna be about 10 minutes late. Please bear with me."
anybody who lives here will understand that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, because things do happen, you can't control if there's an accident on the road.
I've had clients who have said, I've called them in that very instance where it's like, "Oh man, I'm gonna be 7 minutes late." Called them, they didn't pick up, sent them a text, I didn't get a reply, and sent them an email with all that info, they got it like 2 or 3 minutes later. You called me up and like, "Okay, thanks for the heads up," and after getting them, we really appreciated how on top of it you were, you gave us heads up as soon as you knew, that type of thing, so definitely that's part of, I feel like, above and beyond, and kind of that wow.
Communication. Yeah, and that's, this is that first contact, that's the important part. You may have talked with them on the phone, or even if you've met them before, but sometimes with listings, I'll go on a listing appointment and it'll be like a pre-listing appointment. Okay, what's the value? What do I need to do to get the house together? And then, you go back to review numbers, 2 months later or something like that. So, you still want to make sure that you're on time. Fiduciary versus functionary. So this goes back to that blacklist that I said about realtors. Those are the guys that are functionaries. They're there, they fill out paperwork, and all they're looking at is for the transaction. As a functionary, you're looking at, this is the biggest investment. Real estate is probably the biggest investment your clients are ever gonna make. So you need to watch out for that, and all your decisions need to be focused on what's most important to your client and to protect their money. And by doing that, you're gonna have that relationship, because that's what real estate's all about. It's a relationship business. And they do studies all the time, and Keller Williams is big on numbers. And anytime you hear any of the conversations about where does the majority of your business come from, it's always 60 to 70% is coming from past clients or referrals. No matter how much lead generation, I think there was 1 year where I think it was like 75% of my business was for sale by owners, and that was the year after the housing market collapsed. And I was lead generating to for sale by owners. But that was because anybody who I knew probably wasn't doing anything at that point. They were just, just glad they still had a house. So this gives you a little bit more detail about functionary and fiduciary. One of the things that jumps out at me about the functionary is the tells and sells. And as realtors, we do this every day. So when our clients have questions, a lot of times we want to jump in and start telling them the answers, as opposed to maybe digging a little bit deeper on what the question was. Why is that important? Help me understand what you mean by that. And you want it to be an open-ended question. Don't get them to talk and explain to you what's important. Because sometimes we jump to conclusions. We're always making up stories in our head. We jump to conclusions and we might think this is the answer when actually it's not. So it's always good to question and ask. So sellers, usually they want to net the most amount of money, have the fewest hassles in the least amount of time. That's true probably 80% of the time. But you need to have that consultation and ask the questions to understand, are those the most important things? Because in some cases, there's a older couple, they're selling a house where they raise their kids. And maybe it's not so important how much money they get out of it at that point, but they want it to go to another nice family, a nice young family that's gonna raise their kids there. Or, I'm sure that everybody wants the fewest amount of hassles, that's for sure, even as a realtor I do. But the least amount of time, that's not always the case. I sold a property in Candler last year, and what was important to the seller was an extended closing. She was dealing with some health issues, her mother had health issues, so for her, she wanted an extended closing. So you just need to understand that going in.
I had a consult last week, with some sellers that are here in Flat Rock, that similar situation, although they didn't care necessarily as much about the money as much as they wanted to close fast. They wanted 2 weeks and they wanted to be out of the house. And in asking those open-ended questions, we realized it was a smarter choice to go with a investor who was offering cash at a serious discount. They netted at the end of it less, $50K. Had they listed, that it was a better choice for them.
Yeah. So, but we have to remember, this is their transaction. It's not ours. Sometimes it's funny when you're talking to agents on the other side of the transaction. And, especially if you have a buyer, the good thing to do is always to call the listing agent and find out what's important to the seller about the sale of the property. And then a lot of times they'll start yapping and telling you stuff they probably shouldn't be.
Yeah,
Because they think it's their transaction.
happens to my sellers as well. We offered at this price and there is this Asian, he already mentioned that my buyers cannot go beyond this, but they offered it less. And I said to myself, hey, this is the buyers that offered, they said they cannot go beyond this amount, but they're offering less than it. They're like, it doesn't matter, so I accept their offer, which is 5,000, 5 grand difference. I was trying to, make more also there.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's up to them. What do they?
I can't say.
Yeah, I mean,
I can change it.
yeah, I mean, you never, it's what's most important to your client. So the core services that you're providing is the consulting at the beginning. To make, and to a decision, and that's a decision to, initially, what do you list the property at? Then if you wind up getting an offer, you're gonna market it, you're gonna, get an offer, you consult to a decision on the contract. So, I get called a lot, over the years, I've gotten a lot of calls, well, do you think your buyer would accept this offer? And I always say, write it up.
Always make an offer.
Exactly, because years ago, I had an opportunity, I had a buyer who was interested in the property. And I called the other agent and I said, my buyer is willing to offer such and such a price. And so the other agent says, well, let me think about it, let me talk to the sellers and I'll let you know. And then it was like the next day or the day after, all of a sudden it's under contract. So I called the other agent up and she says, well, you didn't have a written offer. I got a written offer from another agent. So, I mean, that was a real learning experience.
So how do you handle the conversation with the buyer then that says, hey, can we ask them this? And how do you, like, what's the value prop that you use for telling them, hey, it's in your best interest to put this in writing as opposed to me verbally telling you?
Well, you have to do what your client wants you to do, as long as it's within the law. So you can always make that ask, but that's where the consultation comes in advising them that we can make the verbal offer, but I recommend that we put it in writing. So this way, if we have it in writing, they need to present it to the sellers. By law, they're supposed to present any written offers. They don't have to present a verbal offer. And sometimes when you're talking to an agent on the phone and you're giving, you're offering a verbal offer, a lot of times, oh, the seller's never gonna accept that. Well,
Unless they present an offer and.
exactly, but when you hear an agent say that, my first thought is, well, how do you know?
Yeah.
Did you talk to the seller? In between breathing, did you call them up? And then, so when you hear that, when you're talking to the other agent, so just, you gotta remind yourself that, don't respond like that. I always respond, I don't know, put it in writing, a lot of times, like I have a real problem property that is under contract and hopefully will close in a couple weeks. But I've gotten offers where, well, will the seller do owner finance? Well, I know that they don't want to do owner financing, but I say, well, why don't you put the offer in writing? Because if it's owner financing, what does that look like? How much down? I mean, typically, if you're doing owner financing, you're putting a big chunk of money down. And then basically the owner becomes the bank. So you need to understand that. I mean, how can you present,
That scenario, would you tell them to put it in writing and present their terms on the finance, their desired terms?
exactly.
Yeah. So they make a proposal and then the seller comes back with if I'm gonna do owner financing, it'll be these terms, and then I negotiate that.
The last two properties Becky and I have bought, one down in Florida and then up here, our personal residence. We did we did a lease option like that,
Okay.
where we put a big chunk of money down. And said, I think gave ourselves like 12 months and we agreed on, we would pay X number of dollars per month. And like 10% of that would go toward the principal. I mean, that's sort of how typically it's structured. And then when we had cash flow, we just paid the property off. And that's when we moved up here, that's what we did because we needed to sell our house in Florida. And the property, we saw it like on a Monday, I think. It was expiring on Friday. It was listed by that other big company here in town. And so I called the listing agent up. I said, would this seller be willing to do owner financing? Or do a lease option? And she called back and said yes. And then she says, I'll let you work with him directly. I said, fine. So we wound up getting a pretty good deal on the property. But the agent was so stupid, she backed out of the deal. Stayed in the deal. Because I think we had the agreement, we were under contract, I think in November, and then we closed in May where we paid it off. So I mean, that she would have waited a few months and then would have gotten the commission.
She didn't want all the owner financing hassle, paperwork, all the time.
Yeah, it's not, the
You have
attorneys,
the experience for.
yeah, the attorneys take care of that. I mean, I had a client in Florida, he had a nice townhome. And the buyers wanted to do that. And I think their agreement ran like for almost 2 years. But you know what? It was like 18 months or whatever it was, all of a sudden the check came in there. And that seller was very happy.
So I have a question on the owner financing. Do buyers always require to put a big chunk of down for owner financing?
Typically, anything that I've ever been involved with, yeah.
About like roughly 20-30%, 40?
I think it depends on the price of the property. And what the terms are, it's like, I think that property we had in Florida, which was a for sale by owner, I think we only put down $10,000. The property up here, I think we put 25,000 down, something like that. I keep know the number off the top of my head.
I know, let's see right now, he's willing to do seller financing, but he eventually was. First, he was open to everything, so, 5% down, 10% down. Then after talking to 20 different people, and everything's super hypothetical, with no one putting an actual offer, he's like, no, I want to see 50% down, I want to see somebody that's committed, and, I don't want to have to be the bank for forever, that's a bit of a pain on me to be that, I'd rather just sign it.
Yeah, usually the way it works is that there's a limit on it. It's like, it's like, 12, 24 months, and then boom, you pay it off. It's a balloon, you have to refinance it at that point. And usually like 24 months, to me, is reasonable. Going beyond that, then like you say, you're becoming a bank, and the plus for the owner is that if the buyer's default, he gets the property back. And he already has that big chunk of change in his pocket that he's invested in T-bills and has been making money on.
That was my question. I've never done one of these. But if I put down $50,000 and it's a 2-year term. And I'm making payments and something happens and I decide I'm out. I'm not gonna follow through. He keeps the $50,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, basically.
It's just like if you bought a house with a mortgage.
Right, okay,
And the only difference is that rather than dealing with the bank, the owner of the property is the bank.
okay,
And then usually the attorneys, up here, the attorneys would write up a mortgage agreement.
yeah, okay.
So consulting to decision, so you're doing that needs analysis, you're walking through the property. Next month, the second Wednesday of next month, we're gonna do a live listing presentation here. So we're gonna go through this in detail. And I forget what day it is that. I remember the phone. 14th, I think it's the 14th. Explain the process, and our, handouts and our listing your property. We have a flow chart of what the process is. We do this every day, but sellers and buyers don't know what the process is. So you need to explain the process. You know, you need to go through the home valuation. Where did you come up with that number? One of the things I was talking to, Sunaki, the other day. And she has a buyer that, or seller that doesn't wanna reduce his price. And so she says, well, you know, what can I do? I said, well, Mr. Seller, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to sell? 5. Okay, well, what would it take to be a 10? You know, if the seller is not motivated, then your house is just gonna sit on the market. So it's your job to have a sign in the yard. I mean, you could potentially get buyers from it, but that really, you're not doing your fiduciary responsibility. I had a mentor in Florida tell me one time, taking over price listing is malpractice. So I talked with her, and then what we did is we took a look at the sales in Henderson County. And then we also took a look at the sales within the subdivision where the property is located. And the properties that are selling are going under contract in less than 20 days. And this property's been on the market, 90 days or something like that. Anyhow, so what's that tell you? Anything that's on the market more than 20 days, 25 days, is probably overpriced. Overpriced for the condition. Because you have the two things that the seller has control over is price and condition. He can improve the condition, which gives you a better price, or he lowers the price to be in line with what the condition is. And so that's what you consult during, you know, when you're doing the valuation process, you're talking about this information. And your sellers need to understand, and you can get a quick report from the MLS and show them that the properties that are selling are going under contract with even $1 million properties. $1 million properties in this area, and I happen to have opportunity out in Transylvania County. The inventory for properties over $1 million is 10.5 months. Which makes it a strong buyer's market. But when you look at the properties that are selling, less than 30 days, under contract, less than 30 days. So if it's priced right, it's gonna sell. The thing is that the buyers, because there's 10.5 months worth of inventory, buyers, they're in the drivers. They can pick and choose and negotiate what they want. And they're not gonna overpay. And that's the thing about the internet nowadays, and we were sort of talking about this earlier, Ed, about technology. You know, the technology's out there and the buyers see all this information out there, so they're pretty savvy by the time they come to take a look at a property, and they know whether the value's there or not.
Is it Zillow's doing?
What?
Is it Zillow's doing? The buyers are aware of everything, the market and everything. And available for properties
Is it Zillow's too?
Oh,
in a way.
no, I guess in a way, yeah. I mean, it's just technology, the internet, you know, well, it could be Zillow, it could be Realtor.com, you know, just, you know, going back to
Yeah,
when
sometimes
we
buyers-
bought our first house, there was no internet, so, you know, you had to go out and look at a property. Nowadays, with the internet, you see all the pictures and you say, yeah. Or you see the pictures and then you put in the address and you do the Google Street View and you see that Billy Bob lives next door and he has his truck on blocks. Maybe I don't want that paper. You know, so you don't even go look at that property, right?
You rarely show Billy Bob's property in your pictures of his property.
Well, exactly, yeah, yeah. It's like an artist's deception
Exactly.
for when realtors post photos. What was that?
I was just thinking from I mean, isn't it kind of, like, if you're selling a house on the limits, you're a property. Your photos should be of a property and not other properties, because that can continue to misconstrue as.
Correct.
True.
So
I mean,
you're not gonna shoot a street view down the street that way and that way, you're only gonna show.
Yeah, I mean, the only time you do a shot down the street is maybe if there's a view, you know, maybe you want them to see what the neighbor, you know, it's a nice neighborhood or a street flower. You know, it's like I did that for a lot that I have, and, you know, when you turn down the street, there was actually a real nice view. So, you know, whereas the lot that I'm selling is, you know, it's all overgrown, so you can't get in there to take a picture of anything, so. Or, you know, people nowadays, drone shots are real big, so you'll have a drone shot of the neighborhood or something like that. So you consult for the home valuation and decide to sell or not. Marketing the property. First thing is, you know, do they need to do any repairs? And the biggest thing is I tell people, property needs to be neat and clean. It doesn't necessarily have to be updated. It needs to be neat and clean, because if you have dirt on the door jambs, or the rug needs to be stretched, there's rumples in this, or there's a little damage to the baseboard or something like that, just fix it. Because anytime there's a cost, the buyer's gonna come in, you know, what's the buyer gonna say? It's $100 repair. And you're, you know, as in reality, but what's the buyer saying? No, man, it's gonna be $1,000. Right, I mean, whatever it is, it's 10 times, so just repair it. I didn't sell the house, but I did show this house in Florida. It was built in the 50s. And when you went in there, would have thought you were in a museum. It had the original wall oven from General Electric, the original stove top and everything. But you know what, you open up that oven, it was like museum quality. So what did that tell you about that property?
Okay, you're
Mid-century model is what it is.
Well, the reality,
Exactly.
the reality is that those 50-year-old appliances may outlast something that you buy today, because they don't make that quality.
But the thing is, what it tells you is that house was loved and cared for. And you're probably not gonna need to worry about anything else in the house. Whereas you can go into a house that was built 5 years ago, and you open up the oven and it's like creaking, or there's stains on the window or whatever. It's like, you know, these people aren't taking care of the house. So what else is wrong with it that I can't see?
Question.
Sure.
Regarding getting the property ready to market and do necessary repairs and so forth. What's your opinion on getting pre-listing inspection? So you know what repairs need to be done.
It's really up to the seller. You can have that conversation with the seller.
You can have a list of items and, you know, what may be important, what may not be, and then instead of decide.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's, if the seller knows what they've done to the property, you know, the roof was replaced 2 years ago, we did the AC 5 years ago. You know, we had a plumbing leak and that was taken care of, you know. To me, I don't push for a pre-listing inspection. I guess if there's a question, I guess you can have that conversation with the seller and say that you have the option of doing a pre-listing inspection. And then this way you can make the repairs before we even put it on the market. Now, once we go on the market, we're in due diligence and there's a home inspection and we need to do repairs. Those repairs will have to be done by a licensed contractor. So, Ed, I know that you're really handy, so maybe you might want to have the inspection first, and if there's any issues, you can make the repairs yourself.
So I do that, I try and push pretty often for a realistic inspection. For mostly for the reason of, I wanna take as much negotiating power off the table from the buyers as soon as we go under contract. If they do a home inspection and we haven't, and now they've got, they're gonna come up with 30 things, whether it's, vital or not. And more than likely than not, they're gonna come there and say, hey, this is all new info, we didn't necessarily see it. Let's renegotiate price. If we can go in, my thinking is have the pre-listing inspection done ahead of time, so you can do that, you can do the repairs if we need to without having a licensed person involved. But you're taking this negotiation off of the table from the get-go, so that any offer that comes in from a buyer is taking into account all that information.
Yeah.
I'm confused, I don't understand what you're saying, so you're saying do a what, when you make an offer?
No, he's for a listing to have a pre-listing inspection. So it's, the nice thing about real estate, it's your business. So you run your business the way you want to. However, it does make sense to have, at least have a conversation with your clients. Because it's up to them what they want to do.
And whatever.
Again, it's their sale, not yours. But I like the suggestion that you get the repairs done up front, so you have you're in a better position for negotiating down the road.
What you say, I've had it happen twice on 2 levels, where the buyer's agent has come back and said, hey, they had their own home inspection done. According to this home inspector, XYZ are issues. I said, well, that was on the home inspection that you were given before you put in your offer. And so, the seller is gonna be less likely to negotiate at this point on anything like this, because this is never. And then it's a let back down.
Yeah.
So you'll hire the professional inspector and then have the inspection ready for the house and, all the things.
Make it available for everybody.
Yeah, so you repair some of the easy things or whatever, and then there's a couple other things, I'm not gonna worry about that, I'll let the next buyer worry about that. You're disclosing that there is an issue here because you have the inspection. So the buyers can't come back and say, I want to negotiate, because they already knew about it. Why'd you put your offer in when you already knew that there was an issue?
Very smart.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a good way of looking at it. Photos, always recommend professional photos. Unless it's the only time I don't do professional is if it's a more low-end type property. But most of the properties around here, you're 400 or more, to me, they deserve professional photos. There's nothing worse than looking at some high-end properties and the realtors in the mirror in the bathroom, it's like, shame on them. I just, and you see that all the time. It's like, really? You listed with this realtor and he was my cousin's brother. Tell them where you're gonna be marketing the property. Can do a coming soon. We can do that here in our market. One of the things that we've done is, we'll do a coming soon. And then a week later, we'll go active, but then not have any showings until the weekend. And then that generates excitement and urgency, especially if you get a lot of people coming and it's like, ooh, these other people like the property. So that can be a marketing tool for you in the way you market it. Now, when you do something like that, you gotta make sure that property's priced right too. If it's overpriced, it's not gonna work out that. I mean, you'll still get some excitement there for the open house, but, you know, the idea of doing it that way is to get multiple offers and hopefully bid the property out.
Can I
But
say
also
something
some-
on that?
Yeah.
With like sending out like the blast and email blast, I usually get an average about like 300 to 400 of the Hendersonville agents opening that email. Cause I can see how many agents open it, how many click on the link and everything, and it's been an average of about 300 per open house, coming soon, like just listed. Just all of them have about 300 agents each opening them, so doing pretty good.
Thank you.
You just sold.
Wow.
I'd also be aware too, just for everyone's awareness, in what you said, the whole, okay, now it's kind of active, but we're blocking it for, you know, till the weekend to show the home. You know, I would use, I guess, that mentality too, when you're looking at properties. I've talked to so many agents where like I've done that, I put it listed, was like listed on a Wednesday, I blocked Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're open. And these agents were calling me up, can we get in the house now? Why is it blocked until Friday? You know, thinking that it's showing like fully booked until Saturday. You know, so it's a really good tool. People, for whatever reason, assume that it's 100% booked, and then that, I think, in and of itself starts creating some more interest.
Yeah, and that just brings up a point. Whenever I'm showing properties, I always go in and I'll take a look at it when you're going to show the property. And you can see, are there other appointments in there? Oh, there's no appointments. The
Yeah.
property's been sitting for a while, there's no appointments, people aren't real excited about this property. So then you can advise your buyer, you know, this doesn't have a whole lot of activity, or, you know, we can't do it at 3 o'clock, it's booked, the only slot that's left open is 5, can you make 5 o'clock, okay. If you want this property, we're gonna have to jump on it, because there's gonna be multiple offers.
So question number, sorry, point number 4 on the third, render marketing plan. How do we create a multi-offer or single offer situation? Could you explain that?
Well, the multi-offer situation is that coming soon, goes active, no showings till the weekend. That's where you generate that excitement and potentially multiple offers. But you have to be priced right.
Right.
You can't be, you know, sometimes when you're with the clients, you say, well, can we just push it a little bit? If you push it a little bit and it's on the high end, then it's not gonna do the same thing. It's better to have it a little bit on the lower side and let everybody bid it up.
Is it a good idea to have a open house on the first day the property goes live?
Before all the craziness of the last few years, we sold our last house in 2016. Small 1,300 square foot, 3-2 ranch in Cary. And our agent said, what we're gonna do is we're gonna list it on Thursday. And no showings till Saturday, we'll have an open house on Saturday. And on Saturday morning, about 10:30, my old neighbor called me and said, you wouldn't believe the traffic we were on cul-de-sac. He said they're just circling the block trying to find a parking place. We wound up by Sunday morning, we had 18 offers and sold it for 10% over asking price.
And that's the way to do it. That's how you generate the multiple.
And that's before multi-offers were common.
So you can generate the multiple offer in any, should be able to in any market if you make the price attractive enough.
Plus, create a scenario and open houses.
Yeah, and like I said, we do, you know, and we did this for that property in Candler that had the extended closing. We did coming soon on Wednesday, went active the following Wednesday, no showings till Saturday, and I was there for that. And it was, and this was up in the mountains, but you wouldn't believe it was continuous, people coming. And we did have, I think we had 6 offers on that property. We were under contract on Tuesday and one of them was priced. So then, and then that, what's that do then? Your sellers are happy, you're getting more than what the property was listed for. But you have to explain all this to your client, and you do that during the consultation and talking about your marketing. You know, this is a strategy that's worked for me in the past and for a lot of agents in my office. What do you think? So again,
And it's up to the sellers.
exactly, I mean, you can make the suggestion, but what do you think? What are they gonna say? Nah, I don't think I want multiple offers. Yeah, no more money. Negotiating the contract. Do a seller's net sheet. Review the qualifications of the buyer, pros and cons, price and terms. Does everybody do net sheets for their sellers? You should be if you're not.
I do it in Excel, like a Google Drive Excel that they can go in there.
Is it
and-
also calculated? You have a formula?
Yeah,
Yeah, we have, Becky has an Excel spreadsheet that's not what's in on.
Is that Cheryl?
No. Of course. When haven't we shared
Well,
something?
but I'm trying to ask in such a nice way. You couldn't say really, but you did.
Of course it's zero. I'll talk to Becky about getting that to you.
That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that you have to calculate, you know, like, for taxes, proration of taxes and stuff like that, you have to calculate that out. And then the fees that we have are, from our attorney that we work with all the time. So
They can plug in their own rates for their attorney.
yeah, so you have to put in whatever attorney you work with, you gotta put in whatever their rates are. So we work with Sherry Brewer, and so we know what she charges all the time. Price and terms, condition repairs. Anything here that what I'm missing, that we should talk about, get into deeper?
And then, negotiate the contract, number 4 conditions and repairs, that's on the original offer purchase. That's not when they come back with.
No, that's sort of the negotiation. They could come back after inspections to negotiate repairs.
Right.
Or it could be, you know, when they submit the offer, you know, the reason why we're coming in lower is that we saw that the soffit on the back of the house is rotting. There appears to be some roof issues there. So we're coming in a little bit lower so that we can, you know, compensate for that. But you need to understand that from the, you know, or if you're submitting the offer, whichever way, you need to understand that. Closing the sale. Because I'm assuming everybody has their closing coordinator that they use.
You mean that attorney? That attorney or?
Well, just somebody who handles the paperwork from contract to close. It's like, and, Becky's our closing coordinator here in North Carolina. Because we don't do as much business up here as we do in Florida, but in Florida, we have a closing coordinator that basically makes sure all the dates are in there. But that doesn't preclude you from talking with your clients and touching base with them. And that was something that's been taught to me in the past too. You can never over communicate with your client. I've never had a client say, stop calling me and updating me on what's happening with the transaction. You never hear that. What you do hear, and I hear it from, because I call expires and withdraw listings, Because, you know, I never heard from my realtor. They never gave me an update. Let your sellers know that they do have to pack and move. Well, that is important. This goes back some years and I was farming in the area and I knocked on the door one day and I had a little packet of information I was giving out. And when I knocked on the door, the woman opened the door and says, "Oh, honey, the realtor's here." And she invited me in and, just so happened they wanted to sell and we wound up listing their house. Which is great, you know, you're door knocking. So we listed their house and they were moving back to Colorado because the husband had taken a fall and he hit his head and he had some health issues. So we come up to the day closing, the buyers do a walkthrough and call up and say, "Nothing's packed. The house is full of furniture." So this is like the day before closing. So just so happened Becky's nephew had a moving company. So she called up the moving company and the next day they packed everything up and moved for this couple. But you need to, so these are some of the communications that you need to do with your clients, let them know. You know, closing day, you need to be out.
I had one last year. And it was an estate sale. Discussing. And the executrix of the estate, we sold the house. They had everything moved out except some stuff in the cellar, not really a basement, it's a cellar. And so she and her husband going to move stuff out. He got down there and started sweating and said, "I'm done." So she called him and said, "We're gonna leave that as a gift." And I said, "Well, I'm not sure they are looking about this boxes and stuff." And so I called the other realtor buyer's agent and said, "My sellers would like to donate this to the buyers." Said, "Oh, well, I'll check." And she came back and said, "Well, they're like this and this and this, but they're not interested." So I called my sellers back and she said, "Well, if they don't want all of them, I'll get this, this, and this." And all of a sudden it became a thing. And now they finally capitulated and moved everything out. But I mean, it got tough there 2 days before closing. You know, I didn't know if they were gonna move it or just refuse.
I mean, and that's an issue because, you know, everything's supposed to be out, so. But, you know, I didn't know as a buyer, you know, I want to buy, I want to get into my new house, you know, as opposed to if it's an investor, no. I won't close, it won't close until the house is cleared out. And they're talking about the conveyance and repairs, conduct key exchange and funding and all that stuff. Happy days. So how do you appear to when meeting with your clients? Now, this is my summertime hanging at the office outfit, but I don't go on my listening appointments just like usual practice. Yeah, you know what profession.
Business action. Here, it's different here than it is in Raleigh.
It's different here than in Florida. In Florida, I wore a shirt and tie in Florida a lot of times.
Yeah,
Up here, you know, it's up here, I have my dress jeans.
Yeah.
I have nice polo shirt or shirt. And then I have my dress hiking boots. Well, it's true, because I, early on, I went to preview this, it was, you know, like a $1 million kind of property. And I get up there and I'm all, you know, look nice, but I had a nice pair of dress shoes on. Well, it was like, you know, it's like 15 or 20 acres. And it's, I mean, let me take you over and show you where the waterfall is and everything. It's like, wrong shoe selection. So I have a real nice pair of hiking boots that are black, and, so they're my dress hiking boots.
I've got a pair of hiking shoes in the car, they stay in the car.
I have hiking sticks. I used to do a lot of land showings. I have hiking stick, not for me, but for the buyers.
Well, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. Especially if they're a little bit older, that also steady, yeah. Hiking sticks are great.
How you act and how you communicate and interact. I think it's important to get a read on the person you're interacting with. And mirror what you see from them. If they're relaxed, friendly, be relaxed and friendly. If they are terse, to the point, you know, keep it short and simple, then be terse and to the point and keep it short. Because people like to see their actions and their processes, they like to see those mirrored back to them.
And they do talk about that in a lot of classes I've been in about mirroring, matching your clients. And it could be their actions and or the way they speak. If they're a fast talker, and you're from down here in the south and you're talking all on the slow side, and body or two. So you just need to, well, you just need to match, right? That's all.
You might have mentioned their energy with your energy. Yeah, I have been listening to this MREA, podcast and.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, one of the top producer Asian talked about this, you know, he carries like 3 faces.
Well, yeah.
For each kind of clients that he's meeting. The fast talker or the furious one or the soft talker.
I mean, because sometimes, you'll get the engineer or the accountant, when you're doing your CMA, going through it, they will look at all the numbers. Then you get somebody who's a high D, who's just, give me the short version, and I listed a guy's investment property in Florida one time, and we went. And as we're touring the house, I did the CMA and discussed it with him, so then when we got back to the kitchen, he says, okay, where do I sign? He was ready to go. So he didn't need all the details, he said, just tell me what I need to do. That was it. So you need to understand, like you said, Ed, you need to understand who you're dealing with. Because if you're dealing with a high D and you're going through in detail with all the numbers, they're either gonna poke themselves in the eye or poke you in the eye. So you do want to surprise and delight so that at the end of the day, they're excited about you and they say, oh, you did such an awesome job, Ed. Oh, great. You know what you can do for me, Joe? Is I'm gonna send you a link and you're gonna give me a great Google review, okay? Because what are people looking at nowadays? Everybody looks at Google reviews, Google reviews. So, I mean,
Yeah, I'm satisfied, it goes to Better Business Bureau.
I mean, when they're happy, you wanna get that 5-star review, right? And we have a client in Florida that, Becky didn't like him. When we first started doing business, when he was an investor. And, I think it was expired listing that I had called. And he's an investor, so he's a little on the short side. But we've sold them, probably 4 or 5 properties for him. There's a couple more that he still needs to sell. And I got an alert, come back from lunch, that he tagged a property that he likes up here in North Carolina. And he's been looking for property up here, so, but he had told us last property we sold for him was back in beginning of the year. And it was a duplex, and he was just excited, the description that they did using AI as an assist. I mean, I would have moved into this duplex, it sounded so good. And he says the photos that we did were just phenomenal compared to other stuff that, you know, he had been looking at. He says, I will never use another realtor other than you and Becky.
I'll bet,
So, I mean,
I want better now too.
Yeah,
I bet Becky likes to be better.
yeah, she's come around, over the years, she's come around that, she just realizes she's got a hard edge to her sometimes. This is about menu of services, there are agents out there that will say, these are my services, and when you're getting pushback on compensation, you can say, well, this is my, this is the 5-star, and it's gonna cost you 7 cookies, and this is everything I'm gonna do. Or we can do 6 cookies, and this is what we'll do for you. Or this is the discount at 4 cookies, and we do certain things. So there are agents out there that do that. I've never subscribed to it, but I know, and I've heard agents that are very successful at doing that.
Well, and do you think with the new NAR agreement, that as part of the negotiating rate, that buyers are gonna be more into that sort of thing?
Our sellers mean,
So, yeah, of picking and choosing off a menu and on paying for what they want.
possibly.
I heard some talk about that.
I don't know, this is my take, and I haven't been on a listing appointment yet where I've had to have this conversation. However, this is my explanation to my clients. You don't want to offer that compensation to the buyer's agent, and I can understand. If you're just compensating me that my office, that 3%, our pool of buyers is this big. Now, if you offer to compensate the buyer's agent, this is the pool of buyers that we're gonna have. So what pool of buyers do you want? Which one do you think is gonna give you the most money for your property? And then you need to shut up and let them talk.
Yeah,
I mean, that sometimes we have a problem also as realtors that we want to just start talking when it gets quiet. It's fine. No. And with the new agreement, and next month, when I do the buyer consultation and the listing consultation, we'll go through and we just need to explain that compensation is negotiable. There is nothing that's set in stone. This is how I run my business, and this is what the typical compensation that I look for when I'm working with my sellers.
So, in our buyer's, agreement, we always put 3% for, single family residents and 5% for vacant land, so that is for our firm that I always use. Is that something that I still continue using it, or would there be a little change I need to change?
Well, in the buyer, what do you want to be compensated for as a buyer's agent?
3%.
3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3%. 3 So that's what you put in there, and in the way that the law is written. If you put in 2% and the listing is offering 3%, you can only accept 2% unless you get this agreement changed to 3%.
Right.
So you might as well go with the 3, and if they're only offering 2, then maybe you just take the 2. In Florida, we have always, it's pretty competitive down there, so there's a lot of discounting where you get, 2.5 or 2%. So we always ask for the 3. But there are times where I've gotten 2 or 2.5%, and I didn't go back to the buyer and ask for that additional monies. And that, again, it's your business, so you decide how you want to do it. But I would advise that upfront, you get an agreement from your buyers that they would be willing to compensate if there is a difference.
When I started 5 years ago, and there was a whole different group of people leaving the office at that point. We were told that the norm for our office is 6%. Some people were going with 7%. Again, we were told that you can negotiate, but if you go under 5%, it has to be approved here by the leadership. Is that still the case? I mean, I will say negotiate.
I don't believe that that's the case, no, because you're running your business. This is your business. You're just paying your license here.
Okay,
And the way that Keller Williams philosophy is that you decide how you want to run it. Now, you can't do it for free. And there's a big issue to do it for free, because if you do it for free, E&O insurance doesn't cover it. So at a minimum, you gotta get $1.
yeah,
Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for a bad situation. So to me, it's your business, so you decide what you want to do, and going forward here next month, it's probably gonna be all over the place.
okay,
But at a minimum, what you earn your money, and the idea of going through this is that by having that consultation up front, talking about the value of the property, what's happening in the marketplace, you're demonstrating your value through this whole process. And you're explaining what the process is. And Tracy, I believe, posted on Facebook, 175 or 174 different things that you do as a realtor. Print it down. And talk to your clients about it, because they don't know what we do. And that's why you also need to talk with them through the process, so you can say, this is what I did today. This is, we reposted it to this site, we did a Facebook ad, blah, 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 this is what we're doing.
so even though the contract is not with me, it's with Keller and Mountain Partners,
Correct.
it's still my call on negotiating.
That's the way that I look at it,
Okay,
I mean, and Keller Williams to me, has always been your leads, your listings, it's your business. That's why you never see an ad anywhere for Keller Williams. You advertise your own business. And so, to me, you don't want to give it away, but I mean, there are times where I've waived my commission on the investment property, so my offer looks better. So the office can get in, neither did I, but that's my choice, it's my business. Now, I wouldn't do it necessarily free for somebody else. I'm working with somebody else, I'd like to be compensated. So you need to have a conversation about the compensation. So this is probably the biggest thing. Is there any thoughts around this?
well, I think the way you stated it early on is, like the buyer's going to say it. you know, that cooperative compensation is a way to enlarge the pool of buyers, potential buyers. And, you know, it's your choice, Mr. Seller. You can offer it and have these buyers, or you can choose to not offer it. And you can say that 3%, but it may take you a lot more. So,
And this is something a listing agent has to, tell to the, sellers.
Yeah, it's a conversation you need to have with the seller, yeah.
And to disclose.
And what, and I haven't done it yet, so I can't say exactly how I'm going to say it, but probably the best thing is to look at the agreement and just say verbatim what's in the agreement. That compensation for realtors is a negotiable item, nothing is set in stone. However, exactly. And then to me, also, if you're working with a buyer and you have the compensation in there and the buyer says, well, no, I'm not gonna pay that. Well, then do you really want to work with that buyer? There was, listening to Pivot Shift on, Tuesday, yesterday. There was a woman up in Pennsylvania, a very successful agent, and she got a referral for somebody out of Washington State. And, they were buying in Pennsylvania, and, so they had their meeting, discussed everything, and, you know, talked about the compensation, and it was like, well, let me think about it, you know, I'm not really sure. And then he sends an email that says, you know, we expect you to show us at least 20 properties, whether they meet our criteria or not, but if you want to see them, we want you to show us to us. There was something else, and we're not going to compensate you anything. And so she got together with her team, and this woman happens to be really detailed, so she did bullet points. And then had the admin person send an email that, you know, with the bullet points and said, you know, sorry about the teamwork. If you want to work with us for this criteria, we're here, we would love to help you out. But I'm sorry, we can't agree to your terms.
Yeah.
So, to me, there's gonna be some of that you're gonna have to do. You can't, if somebody doesn't see the value that you bring, and that's right at the beginning of the relationship, and the relationship ain't gonna get any better. So, and it's probably toughest when you're a newer agent and you don't have a lot of business. It's like, take almost anything, but you have to have respect for yourself and the fact that you've taken the test here in North Carolina, which is not an easy test. I mean, I was lucky, there's reciprocation with Florida, I just had to take a simple test and I passed. But, you know, there's knowledge that you have about the marketplace, plus you do all this other stuff that KW offers here. You know, you're good agents, you provide good service, so you deserve to be compensated. Well, we went over. Well, I never look at the time, so there should be a clock back there, so I know what time it is.
exactly.
No, well, I know in Florida,
There used to be one.
in the training room there was always a clock on the backs of the person you could see. What was this good?
Yes.
Okay, well, next Tuesday, we have we're gonna do the live stream from, is it Canopy? I can't remember, I think it's from Canopy. They're gonna be talking about all these changes, so we're gonna do that live stream here. Then next Wednesday at 2:00, because I have a previous commitment at 1. And at 2:00, we'll meet here and we'll just mastermind about what they talk about on Tuesday.
August the,
No, this is,
Tuesday, which is.
and I left my phone in the other room, so.
And you are, what would you be? What was the?
So August is, sorry, the Tuesday, which is August the sixth.
No,
No,
next Thursday, just the third. And then July 14th.
14th is right, and our discussion.
Oh, the 7th and the 14th, the 7th is the buyer consultation and the
Okay.
14th will be listing consultation. The following Wednesday, I'm looking for somebody who can teach putting together your buyer and listing packet off of command. So I haven't told you about that yet, but that's something that Ed and I were talking about, and that would be a good class. And then the last Wednesday of the month, we're gonna do, it's gonna be the first of 6 classes, never ending referrals, which is a MAPS program. There'll be videos from a couple of MAPS coaches that will help you put together your database and how to work your database. And that's gonna be a 6-week course in the beginning here. So we'll talk about it more tomorrow at the team meeting, but that's something that you want to take advantage of. That's something I took years ago. It cost me like $300 or $400 to do it online. They're offering it to us because I happen to be a PC coach. So, there'll be a little fee for the paperwork and stuff, all of the booklets and stuff, but, for the most part, it's gonna be pretty cheap, so, and I recommend it.
And you're gonna send us a copy of the slides. You want, I do.
So you guys signed in here,
Never
signed?
noticed, 'cause I said you would.
I would
Yeah, I'll
want that
send you-
and the retailers and Excel.
And the sellers and sheet, yeah, I can get that.
Yeah.
You,
You need us to put our email addresses on this list.
no, as long as your names there.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I have everybody in my phone.
I'd be interested to have just to see if we miss it.
Well, for the net sheet. The 21st.
Yeah, that's the one you and I were
So
talking
I
about.
have a buyer's question.
Oh, that's,
I started answering it, it just went.
let me take a look at my calendar. Hang on.
August 21st.
So I personalize.
Yeah.